everybody. It's Dave here, Darren over there, and we welcome you to Hate Week. What does Hate Week mean? It means we played up. Team from Wisconsin. Why do we call it Hate Week? Because as I've said a million times, if there's one team the Vikings got to beat during a season, it's that team that wears cheese on their head. Oh, yeah. Now, today we got three themes. Darren, in his bright, cheery mood, is going to be talking about Kwesi adofo-mensah's 2025 free agent busts. Are they busts? We'll find out. Theme 2 this week in Vikings land, and we're going to cover everything from somebody's getting advice from all the press on how he should throw a football, all the way down to owners bitching and whining that they don't grade well. And then we're going to get into it with Drew Bunting in This Week in Vikings, or in the game, and Inside the Numbers, as we take on the Frozen Toilet Bowl team, that team from Wisconsin. All next on Two Old Bloggers. Rock! Vikings First and SKOL presents This Week in Vikings Land with Darren and Dave, your two old bloggers. I want to welcome everybody to the chat. We got Biggs, we got Cool Papa Bell, Davey Chains, T-Bass. I agree with you 100%, my friend. The Vikings can only get two wins a year. It should both be against Green Bay. And here's Peter and Norsefius. I don't know why you didn't make it last week, but that's okay. You're here today, and that's all that matters. Darren, how are things in the Great White North?
Nice and snowy, Dave, just like it should be. Late November, so I've been shoveling the driveway nonstop all week. Snow coming down, so it's Christmas time. Yeah, things are good. Things are good. How about you?
Oh, we got guests this weekend, and they're off at the zoo right now, which is fine. But it's cooling off, and we're getting ready for Thanksgiving this week.
Mm-hmm. Big week down south of the border for sure.
I got to do some last minute shopping so I can cook on Thursday. Question is, what flavor pie?
Okay.
Or pies. All I care about on Thanksgiving are the pies. So, best part of Thanksgiving. All right, with that, we start Hate Week show. Theme 1.
We do.
And this one is going to be interesting.
Yes, it is. We hope it's interesting anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Dave's sorting through his thousands of slides.
Oh, no, not the slides, through the windows to get to the slide deal so I can pop it up. Can lightning strike twice?
It is a good question, Dave. I thought of this because Big Rail says you should get strawberry rhubarb for pies, Dave.
Oh,
Not
I
a bad
agree.
choice.
I agree if I can find it here. I can find it in Texas. But I agree. Rhubarb is my favorite. Strawberry rhubarb probably second. But hey, I grew up there, so.
Yeah. Anyway, With the Vikings limping along at 4-6, like a lot of the criticism and complaints about why the Vikings are 4-6 have centered around the mostly crappy play we've gotten at quarterback from JJ McCarthy, and before that with Carson Wentz when he was subbing in for McCarthy when McCarthy was injured, which is very true, Dave. But I think another reason the Vikings have struggled this year in replicating the 14-3 season last year is that most of the free agent signings that Kwesi adofo-mensah made this offseason, plus the trades that he made to bring in players who weren't Vikings in 2024 and bring them into the organization this year, haven't worked out nearly as well as they did in 2024. And if everybody remembers the 2024 free agent class in particular, every move that the Vikings made, whether it was signing Grenard, Blake Cashman, Andrew Van Ginkel, bringing in Darnold, Aaron Jones, even Stefan Gilmore and Shaq Griffin, all of those moves either were worked out fantastic or they were solid moves. This year, not so much so far early on. And I think that's been, again, a reason why the Vikings have underachieved. So want to look at all of those additions. And I'm not counting the guys that the Vikings re-signed who were Vikings in 2024. These are guys that weren't Vikings in 2024 and Kwesi adofo-mensah brought them in. So I want to look at those one by one and assess where how they performed, at least in my opinion, up to through 10 games as a Viking. First one we're going to look at, and we're going to start with the O-line because Dave loves the big round bellies, of course. So we want to start with that. And let's start with Ryan Kelly at center. Brought in as a free agent. That one has been a big fail so far. Not because of Kelly's play, though, but because he hasn't played. He's only played parts of 3 games so far. Due to the 2 concussions that he got in a span of about 10 days. So he's been on the shelf pretty much the entire year. And so
somebody needs to make sure that they have their sock full of smelling salts for him. Okay, it's another one.
Yes. Now, because of Kelly's age and his injuries in the past, which included concussions, assigning him was always a bit risky for the Vikings, but they felt they had to do it because it was time to move on from Garrett Bradbury. They did that, but so far this move has not worked out with Kelly. It's been a bust again because of the injuries. Now it looks like he's going to be back on Sunday. He's changed his helmet. Kevin O'Connell says he's going to be wearing the Guardian cap. We'll see if that makes cuts down and eliminates the concussion issues. We sure hope so because we think that Kelly was the right signing back in March, but it hasn't worked out so far. That's one that hasn't worked out for the Vikings so far. Along the offensive line, the other big addition in free agency was Will Fries. Signed that big 5-year, $88 million contract with the Vikings after having a strong part of a season with the Colts last year before he broke his leg. Again, that was one of the biggest contracts that an offensive lineman signed in free agency last year. But so far, what the Vikings have got out of that through 10 games has been nothing special. He's ranked in pass block win rate 57th out of 66 guards that are graded. Run block win rate ranked 55th out of 65 guards run, according to Aaron Schatz, who did a story on this a couple of weeks ago about free agent guys who have worked out and those who have not. So those aren't really very, very good grades. It's fair to say, though, that Fries he has not worked in one game this year with the other 4 offensive line teammates that he was expecting to work with, including the center, which was first Kelly, and then it was Michael Juergens, and then it was Blake Brandel. There's been some continuity issues there that may impact him. He was also still recovering from that serious broken leg last year. There were some thoughts that maybe he hadn't quite hit his stride. The good news with Fries, though, is that last week, he's probably came off one of his best game as a Viking, as the entire offensive line did. He had his best run block win rate of the season, according to PFF, The entire Vikings offensive line only gave up 9 pressures, which was the seventh best in the NFL last week. So, like, again, so far though, Fries has not been what we paid him for through 10 games. But again, it's just through 10 games. But so far, this has not worked out. But I feel like it will eventually, but hasn't so far. So that's the offensive line. Let's turn to the defensive line again.
Yeah, but we did get. He's given us better play than we got last year.
The grades would say yes, barely, but it looks like he's trending up, I guess is the good thing on that. I can only work with what the 10 games have showed us so far, and so far it's been pretty average for Fries, with hopes that it'll get better. Right. That's the offensive line stuff. Defensive line, the big signings there on the interior, we signed Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave because to add some juice to an interior defensive line that didn't create enough pressure on quarterbacks up the middle last year. So we signed them to big offseason deals. So far, those guys, I think that they've been better than the guys that they replaced, which is Harrison Phillips, Jonathan Bullard, and Jerry Tillery. They've already got through 10 games more sacks than those 3 guys had last year. They've got more quarterback hits through 10 games than those guys did last year. With 2 more tackles for loss, they'll have more of those than those 3 guys had through 17 games last year. They've got, just looking at, both Allen and Hargrave are in the top 22 amongst interior defensive linemen that are graded by Pro Football Focus. They're in the top 22 in quarterback pressures, which is a lot more than Phillips and Bullard and Tillery generated last year. But their PFF grades are pretty poor. Neither of them are in the top 50 out of about 124 interior defensive linemen that the PFF has graded over a certain amount of snaps this year. So that's not great. And the Vikings run defense, which was consistently good in 2024, has been inconsistent in 2025. And Hargrave and Allen were one of the things that was one of the knocks on them was that they weren't great run defenders when we signed them. And that seems like, so you start to think that they've certainly generated more pass rush and disruption that way than Bullard and Phillips and Tillery did back in 2024, but their strengths haven't been enough to vastly outweigh their deficiencies, I think, and they haven't been good enough to take this defense to another level that it really needed to be this year in order to overcome some of the shortcomings we've seen on offense, particularly at quarterback. So, I wouldn't say that these signings have been busts, but they haven't had the impact that we were hoping for the Vikings defense overall.
They certainly haven't lived up to the billing that we thought we were going to get.
No, I don't think so. I think myself, Dave, my hopes for Allen and Hargrave were a little bit more muted than maybe some others. I didn't think that they were going to turn us into the 84 or 85 Bears, no. But I did think that they were going to help this defense be a little bit better than it was last year when it was pretty good. And that hasn't happened. The defense has actually taken a step back for various reasons. It's still good. It's still solid, but hasn't played at the level consistently it did in 2024, I think. And Hargrave and Allen were brought in to do that. Isaiah Rodgers is another guy that was a free agent signing. And at cornerback. Now, he didn't get a huge deal, a 2-year deal with pretty reasonable money, but he was installed as a starter right away. And again, not a bust. He had an amazing game against the Bengals. Had like a perfect PFF rating for that game, the first perfect PFF rating a corner has ever received. But he's had other games, the Philly game, and then the Detroit game in particular, where he's struggled and he gave up some big, long, killer pass plays. Tackling, he's a guy who like tends to like want to punch the ball out instead of actually trying to take a guy down on first contact. I don't like that. His PFF grade is okay, is 65.9, so that puts him 38th out of 108 corners that they've rated over a certain amount of defensive snaps. So that's not terrible. But I'd say that Rodgers has been okay. I don't think he's been better than Stephon Gilmore was last year, really, or even Shat Griffin to a large degree. So, he's been meh as a free agent signing. A guy who hasn't been meh as a free agent signing and probably has been the best value bargain we've made in free agency was Eric Wilson. He signed a 1-year deal. He's got a cap hit of $2.6 million, and he was signed to be a special teams guy and a backup inside linebacker. Well, he's been a starter since week 2, the week 2 game against Atlanta, Dave, and particularly since Blake Cashman got back. Wilson and Cashman, I think, have been a pretty effective inside linebacker or duo, and the stats really back that up. He's got 3.5 sacks. That's tied for second on the team. He's tied for second in tackles for a loss on the defense. PFF has got him ranked with 19 quarterback pressures, which is second amongst inside linebackers that they've graded. They don't like him. The PFS don't like him overall as a grade. They got him at I think a 59, which is way down there. I think they ding him a lot for his pass coverage and that sort of thing. But overall, I think that Wilson, along with Cashman, he's provided, I think, unexpected playmaking ability at inside linebacker, and he's been an important, I think, reason why the Vikings' run defense has turned it around the past 4 or 5 games after some pretty shoddy run defense earlier in the season. So Wilson's been a nice find for them at free agency, probably our best free agent signing through 10 games thus far, certainly with the amount of money we're paying him. Final free agent guy that I'm going to identify, maybe a bit unfair, is Carson Wentz, who was a late free agent signing because of Sam Howell, and we'll get into Sam Howell in a little bit. But Wentz was, as a quarterback, backup guy. He ended up starting 5 games because of McCarthy's injury, which we didn't want to see. He looked okay at times, but mostly he underwhelmed at the position. Was almost as inaccurate as McCarthy in a lot of the games. Turned the ball over a fair amount during those 5 games, which was disheartening to see from a guy who's a veteran who's played in the league a long time and should know better. He did prove to be a tough son of a gun, give him that. But as a backup quarterback, again, he was underwhelmed at times, which I guess can be expected from your backup veteran quarterback. They're backups at that stage in their career for a reason, because they're not that great. But I think that the Howell situation and then bringing in Wentz, that the Vikings had better options in the offseason, and they didn't recognize that. So that's a look at the free agent signings. Not a lot of good there over 10 games so far. Let's go over the trades, and we'll start with Sam Howell. At the time, Dave, I liked the deal the Vikings made. They just traded spots to get Howell with Seattle. They didn't actually give up a draft pick. That they gave up draft positioning in the 6th round in 2026. And I thought, hey, here's a guy. He's pretty young. He's got a good arm. He's had extensive starting experience in 2023 with Washington. Get him into the Kevin O'Connell QB reclamation school. He's got some promise. And I thought not a bad dart throw here. Well, it really didn't work out, right? By the time training camp was over and preseason was over, the Vikings had seen enough of Howell that they didn't want him on the team. They ended up trading him to Philly, and that necessitated bringing in Carson Wentz very late in the season, or late in the offseason. The Kevin O'Connell, the Vikings really botched the evaluation of Sam Howell in this case, and as it looks like, they also botched their estimation of how ready J.J. McCarthy was to be an NFL quarterback at this time. So some issues there. So that trade certainly didn't work out. Adam Thielen brought in. That one also obviously has not worked out. Thielen only has 8 catches. He's playing 30% of the offensive snaps. That hasn't, he's not being used at all. I understood the move at the time. I wasn't against it, even though he's long in the tooth. With Addison being out those 3 games, Dave, Jalen Naylor's status for the first game or so was uncertain with the hand injury. They felt that they couldn't run with Tim Jones and Ty Felton out there as the number 2 wide receiver. And so they brought in Thielen. But again, just hasn't worked out. Thielen hasn't been able to carve out a role with the team, even when Jordan Addison was out for 3 games, and he hasn't been able to make an impact at all, really. And the Vikings don't run, he hasn't beat Nalen out as the number 3 guy, and the Vikings don't run very many 4 wide receiver sets, so there's no role for Adam Thielen on this team right now. And you gave up some draft picks to get him, so that one's been a big fail as well. The final one I'm going to talk about is, and this one has worked out, is trading for Jordan Mason, who the Vikings got from the 49ers in the offseason. This guy has been as billed, Dave. He's a tough runner, runs well inside the tackles, but has a surprising amount of burst to bounce it outside when necessary, can get you the tough yards, rarely goes down on first contact or even second contact. And he's given the Vikings, he's not a home run threat. His longest run this year is 24 yards, but he's given the Vikings some juice in the red zone and an ability to punch it in the red zone. He's got 5 rushing touchdowns this year. That doesn't sound like a lot, but consider the Vikings running backs last year in total through 17 games only had 4 rushing touchdowns. Mason's already got that, and we've seen him, hit pay dirt inside the 10, 15-yard line this year with his running style. The only thing with Mason really is that he's probably been a bit underused. And that's because of the Vikings, mostly I think because of the Vikings' offensive struggles, right? They haven't been able to string enough quality drives together throughout games where he and Aaron Jones haven't been able to get the touches that they probably require to be as effective a weapon as we'd like them to be. But Mason still leads the team in rushing yards, and I think he's been exactly what the Vikings expected when they traded for him, and I think he's been a quality player for us and been a very useful player on offense for us. So that trade has worked out, whereas the other 2 haven't. The bright side of all this, Dave, is that we're talking about how these things have worked through 10 games. And you got to take the long view with free agents signings in particular. And most of these guys, outside of Hargrave, I expect Thielen will retire at the end of this year. Hargrave and Wilson's on a 1-year deal. I don't know if he'll be back next year. Hargrave's on a 2-year deal, but his cap hit is like $21 million next season. The Vikings aren't going to be willing to swallow that. So there's a question of whether he'll be back. But outside of those 3, all these other guys we've talked about, I'm almost guaranteed they will be back. And what we've seen with Fries last week in his play and with the offensive line getting healthier, a lot of these guys, the first few games, it takes a while for them to hit their stride with new teams, I find, as far as free agency. And I think that there's a chance that a lot of these moves could look a lot better later on this season, and particularly in 2026, than they do right now, which will help the Vikings be a better team in 2026. And maybe they'll be the team in 2026 that we thought they were going to be in 2025. And a lot of these players who aren't performing up to what we expected right now will be a big reason why the Vikings are playing the way we expected in 2025 next season, or maybe even later this season. So it's not all is lost, but the returns on the free agent class and the trades that Kwesi adofo-mensah made so far through 10 games are not what they were with his free agent class last year.
No, not even close. But it's like a gamble when you pick somebody that gets released, especially due to history of injuries or whatever. You're hoping to catch the high side of that bet.
Yeah.
And It panned out last year. It's not panning out as well this year. But that's a good list. I was surprised when you passed me those notes. That is what it is. Now, it also lends more credence to Kwesi's evaluation postseason, but we'll get to that closer to postseason.
Mm-hmm.
When we're waiting 8 weeks between when we finish and the draft.
Right.
All right. Now for theme 2. And the music got dislocated. Cool.
No. Don't worry about that.
I know, but I use it.
You do.
All right. Theme 2. This week in Vikings land.
And we're going to start off with first topic we're going to get to is J.J. McCarthy and Max Brosmer, because last week against the Bears, while J.J. McCarthy was mostly stinking it up against the Bears, Dave, you were talking about how you saw on social media that is the pitchfork brigade amongst Vikings fans on social media was calling on O'Connell to take out McCarthy and put in Max Brosmer. And just no to that is my thought. I know it's painful to watch, right? To watch McCarthy struggle and the offense struggle like it has when they've got the players that they have. But, McCarthy is a guy that doesn't have he needs game experience in the NFL to progress. And so he's not going to get that sitting on the bench. It's not the right move every time he struggles. And folks, he's going to struggle some more. Just, put that in the bank this season. It's not the right move every time he struggles, every quarter, every drive to say, yank him and put in Brosmer. Because again, he needs a game experience. He's only going to get that by playing. This is really he's probably lost more games in the first 3 months in the NFL than he lost in his entire life as a quarterback at any level in football. So he's experiencing failure for the first time, and we've got to see how he reacts to that, how he bounces back from that. And there's all kinds of things during the game, decisions he's making, problem solving on the field in real time that playing in the game is valuable reps in the way he's going to sort things out and how we're going to learn whether he can be an NFL quarterback or not. Again, he's not going to be able to do that on the bench. So it just doesn't make any sense, especially with the playoffs. There's a long shot right now. Play J.J. McCarthy to see what you have and get that data you need to make some decisions this offseason. And with the whole Brosmer thing, hey, like you, Dave, I really liked what I saw in preseason. It's promising to see how he played and how he reacted during preseason, but it was just preseason. And I think when fans are calling for Brosmer to go in there and let's see what we have, they're doing the thing that football fans have done since the beginning of time, which is when your starting quarterback is struggling, you get enamored with the shiny new toy sitting on the sideline, which is the untested backup quarterback, until the untested backup quarterback, the shiny new toy, gets put into the game and then malfunctions badly. And then they're ready to crucify the shiny new toy and get rid of that. So, and let's be clear, Kevin O'Connell is not going to bench McCarthy for Max Brosmer at all, unless it's a health reason for the next 7 games. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to see Brosmer. So put that out of your mind, and nor should it happen because of those reasons, because I'm pretty confident as impressed as I've been by what I've seen from Brosmer in preseason and all the comments made by him. I'm quite confident that if he went into an NFL game, he would malfunction and not perform any better than McCarthy is performing right now.
Yep.
So stick with McCarthy. Take your lumps.
Yeah, McCarthy has a higher upside. via where we acquired him. There's a reason people get drafted in the first round versus undrafted.
Yes.
Not to mean that an undrafted player can't be successful. Tony Romo. But can they win Super Bowls? Hey, we haven't had a Vikings drafted quarterback win a Super Bowl, so I don't know. It's frustrating. But he's got to learn. He's got to get the reps. And the only way he's going to do that is by playing.
That's right.
T-Bass, yes, they worked on technique growing up. I'm sure he did. But NFL is slightly different in how they play, and they try to refine it. It is what it is.
Yeah, I don't know the ins and outs of the mechanics and the techniques that Kevin O'Connell teaches compared to McCarthy's quarterback QB guru coach in high school, yeah. the guy who called Chris Carter a clown this week. But yeah, there's got to be differences, and JJ McCarthy has said that himself, where he's talked about how he's been taught to play quarterback is totally different the past 2 years than it has been previous. So, yeah.
Darren, I believe Tony Romo was an undrafted free agent.
Yes, he was. Indeed, he was. But picking one or two guys out of the hundreds and hundreds who've been undrafted and never made the NFL.
It doesn't mean anything. And, yeah. And especially when you talk quarterbacks, even drafted in the first round, they've got a higher bust rate than the rest of the first round because they're quarterbacks. Quarterbacks get overvalued.
They do. I think that if you out there, Big Rail, doesn't agree with my thoughts on that, but if you think that Brosmer is better than McCarthy, sure. But I think if Brosmer actually ends up being better than McCarthy, that's something that Kevin O'Connell and the offensive staff, they're going to recognize over time. And it's going to show itself in some way, shape, or form. And the Vikings will turn to Brosmer if he ends up playing so well that he's clearly better in practices and in preseason and training camp than McCarthy. But I don't think that they have seen that through the time that Brosmer and McCarthy have been on the Vikings. Mm-hmm. I acknowledge that there's always going to be a bias to playing the guy who was picked 11th or 10th overall compared to the undrafted rookie free agent guy. It would be naive for me to think that there's not favoritism there. But at some point in time, as a coach, where winning games is how you stay employed, if you're seeing in practices and in preseason games and even in some game action that one guy is better than the higher drafted guy, you turn to him. That's why the 49ers played Brock Purdy and didn't turn to Trey Lance and then got rid of Trey Lance. And there's other examples of that too.
Mm-hmm. So it is what it is. Now on to the next topic, my big round bellies.
Yeah, well, the offensive line through 10 games, it hasn't been what we expected, Dave, especially with considering the Vikings had made the big investments on Kelly and Fries, who we talked about earlier, and drafted Donovan Jackson in the first round to just take over at left guard. But, they've struggled. They struggled in pass protection. They struggled in run blocking. There was no continuity. But injuries we thought were the big reason why that was the case. Kelly's barely played. Christian Darrisaw didn't play the first couple of games, and then he was in and out for a couple more after he came back. Brian O'Neill missed a couple of games and maybe not was completely healthy, or maybe still isn't completely healthy now. And then you had Juergens came in. He got injured. He was ineffective when he was in. Then they had to put Blake Brandel in there. So a whole bunch of moving parts through that on that offensive line that I think contributed to not very good offensive line play through most of the first 10 games. But is the Vikings offensive line really starting to turn things around? Because if you look at the last 3 games, Dave, running game has been really, really effective. I think they've run for well over 100 yards, and most of that rushing yardage has been through design runs, not quarterback scrambles by J.J. McCarthy. They've done that. They're averaging 5.4 yards per carry. That is a hell of a lot more than the Vikings have ever averaged under Kevin O'Connell in his almost 4 years as head coach. The last 2 games, they've only given up 1 sack. They were on a pace before that, Dave, to give up the most sacks a Vikings team has ever given up up until that point. So things have gotten better. And I think, again, health is a big reason for that, because the last 3 games in particular, 4 of your projected starting 5 on the offensive line have played 100% of the offensive snaps. And Ryan Kelly, it looks like he's going to be back this Sunday against the Packers with the Guardian cap on and the new helmet. So finally, that'll be the first time, if that happens, that'll be the first time the Vikings have their projected starting 5 offensive linemen playing in a game. And I think now if Kelly plays tomorrow and he can stay in the lineup for the final 7 games, and the other offensive linemen can stay healthy. We hope that continues. I think you're going to see if the offensive line is what we were hoping it would be at the beginning of the season, which we thought would be, a top 10 unit, perhaps a dominant offensive line. And of lately, they have been, I think, rounding into shape. So I think I'm really, really encouraged to see that the health of the offensive line is finally turning around. We're going to have our projected starting 5. It looks like playing on the field tomorrow on the grass against Green Bay. And let's see how that works for J.J. McCarthy, because for him, I think really important for him to start stacking some good games together so that he can have some confidence going into the offseason, and we can have some optimism going into the offseason that he is the right guy to be the starting quarterback in 2026. And one way that I think he can stack those good games is if he's got an offensive line that's really protecting him well, which they did last week, and opening up sizable holes for the run game, so the run game continues to be effective. The offensive line could be a big part of J.J. McCarthy turning his play around, for the final 7 games. And I also want to give a shout out to Blake Brandel because I think he really did the Vikings a solid while Kelly was out and then Juergens got hurt, because here's a guy, he had never played center at college or the NFL level. I don't know if he even played it in high school, but I thought he gave him workmanlike level of play when he for several games.
Oh no. Internet signal's good here. I wonder if Darren just went down. Oh, well. But he's talking about, yes, that Blake Brandel stood up. I don't think he has played any other game, any other position, or the center position at any other time. And what I meant earlier by drafting a quarterback that gets us to the Super Bowl, gets us to win a Super Bowl, we've had the 2 that you mentioned. They won, but not with the Vikings. It's with the Vikings. Is JJ the guy? Yeah. We hope so. But we'll find out. But I can almost guarantee you, if we let him go, he'll probably turn around and do that. But Ryan Kelly looks to be starting this week, which will be good. And the new helmet he has is Rydell Axiom, which is like the one pictured. It's just their better model. And he's wearing the little pads in the Guardian helmet on top. Still wish he'd gone with the viscous helmet. But personal choice. But it is what it is. Hopefully, this man will play better. Now, speaking of McCarthy, it's time to talk about the other dude that was drafted in the same draft.
Sorry, my internet crapped out on me.
I wondered if you got hit by a UFO or a comment or something.
No, nothing like that. Just the Wi-Fi went out. Anyway, I'm back, and I want to talk about Dallas Turner because I think I think it's getting lost a bit with McCarthy's struggles. That the guy who was picked 7 selections after McCarthy is actually coming off 2 of his best games as a Viking the past two games, and that's Dallas Turner, who a lot of Vikings fans have declared as a first round bust after a season and a half. But at least the last 2 games, he's made an impact against the Ravens. Only 27 defensive snaps because he was in a part-time role because Grenard and Van Ginkel were playing a lot. But in 27 defensive snaps against the Ravens, had a PFF grade of 71, one of the best of his career. Last week, in a full-time role against the Bears, 67 defensive snaps. He had a 72.1 PFF ranking. That's the best he's had in a game where he's played at least 20 defensive snaps. And it wasn't, to me, the grades are one thing, but the eye test for me, I thought that was Dallas Turner's best game as a Viking that I've seen. I thought he was noticeable the whole game, and he had a sack. He had 2 tackles for a loss. He had a pass defended. He had 5 defensive pressures, which was a career high. He came within an inch of having an interception. I don't know how he missed it. It was just an all around, and he had another sack where Caleb Williams somehow wriggled out of it. Dallas Turner had a really, really good game. And the week before, he had a sack that was overturned on a questionable body weight penalty call on him. These 2 games I think have been encouraging, Dane, because we've seen a lot of games where we're kind of like, where's Dallas Turner? I don't notice him out there. He has been noticeable, particularly last week and even the week before. And, he's only 22 years old. He doesn't turn 23 until February of 2026. I think he's still growing into his body in a league where he's playing against grown-ass men, as we like to say. And, I still think he has to add more to his bag of pass rush moves. I find that he, for some reason, he tries to use the bull rush almost a lot of the time, which surprises me because he's not the biggest edge.
It's a speed to power move. Yeah.
Yeah. Where's the spin move? Where's the swim move? You would think he would have refined it a bit over time, but I think he's got to, increase his arsenal there. I think that he's still got to refine his run defense and setting edges, but he's getting better there. But I'm just really encouraged by the last 2 games because he's starting to look like the guy that we drafted 17th overall. And Grenard may be playing tomorrow, maybe not, but eventually I think Grenard will be getting back in there. Van Ginkel seems to be healthy now from his neck injury. So I'm intrigued to see what Turner's role is going to be when all 3 of these guys are healthy and what kind of impact he can make. His defensive snaps certainly won't be 67 if Grenard and Van Ginkel are both healthy and playing, but I think he's playing well enough now that you could see him getting 40 defensive snaps or in the high 30s and spelling those guys a little bit more, or they're using all 3 of them on the field at the same time, kind of like what Flores did last year when you'd have Van Ginkel, Jihad Ward, and Grenard on the field all at the same time as the NASCAR package. Really haven't seen that a lot this year with those 3, partly because of injuries, but also partly because I think Flores felt that Turner wasn't earning the time on the field, but now he is, and it comes at a great time, I think, because Turner this defense is pretty old when you look at a lot of the guys on it. They need some young players to emerge, and the last 2 games he has been doing that.
He has stepped up, and he will continue to. He's young. People don't pay attention to his pass coverage skills. They're getting better too. He's broken up a lot of pass plays or made tackles when needed. He's improving, and really that's all we could ask for. Yes, we wish he would be a knockout Hall of Fame stud in his 2nd year, only 22, but that does rarely happens. But if he keeps improving, he may be by end of next year. Who knows?
Well, most first rounders don't end up in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
Most players don't. But if he is a guy who is with us for 10 years and is a 9 to 10 sack per season guy, that is a quality draft pick, even in the first, even 17th overall, if you get that kind of production out of him, considering also the fact that at least while Flores is our defensive coordinator, he's got Dallas Turner playing a fair bit in pass coverage too, not just getting after the quarterback all the time. Mm-hmm. So he's got a varied skill set, and it seems like at least these two games it's come together, and I feel good about that because sure, a player can have a good game every once in a while, but when you start stacking them together, that just shows that you're going to consistently be a force. And like I said, the Vikings need Dallas Turner to be that force with the age of some of their other players on defense.
Yep. All right. Now to whining about the NFL Players Association report card.
Yes. Well, last week the ESPN had a story where they found out that the NFL owners have filed a grievance with the NFLPA about the team report cards that have been coming out annually since 2023. They feel that the report cards violate the collective bargaining agreement, and so they're not happy with that. This week, ESPN also had a story where they found the NFLPA is going to fight that grievance and fight to keep the report cards to keep coming. We'll see where this goes, Dave, but if you're Vikings owner Mark and Ziggy Wilf, there is no way in hell that you want to see these annual report cards get turfed, especially because the Vikings since 2023 have either been ranked number 1 or number 2 in the NFL on these report cards. And I've said it before with free agency, money, I think, is the ultimate deciding factor on where a player goes or doesn't go. But if the money and the length of years are, fairly equal between what the Vikings are offering and what other teams are offering, I think that these report cards can be a tipping point in whether a player signs with you or not. And actually, Matthew Collar last week wrote about this subject too, and he said every free agent signing from this offseason that he talked to stated that the Vikings rankings in these report cards was a factor in them signing with the Vikings. So this,
I believe it was the year before too.
So this is a marketing tool for the Vikings, and it's a competitive advantage for them when they're looking to bring in players from outside the organization. The Vikings, Minnesota, no disrespect to Minneapolis and the state of Minnesota. I've been there a couple of times, and it's a great place. But Minneapolis in particular, it's not going to compete with New York or LA as a global media market. And it's not going to compete with LA or Tampa Bay or Houston or Miami or Arizona or a bunch of other places for weather. But you can compete with every other team when it comes to work environment and providing a world-class place to work. And that is what the Vikings have done, and these report cards are showing. I think this would get out word of mouth amongst players, but when you've got a report coming out annually from the NFLPA taking its data from players who are responding to surveys, and they are raving about the Vikings and how they treat players and the facilities and on and on and on, I think that is a great marketing tool for the Vikings. And it helps tip players' decisions towards going to the Vikings. And so if you're a owner like Woody Johnson, who you just showed, and you're bitching and moaning about the team report cards and how they're unfair and they're bogus, my response to that would be, well, how about just do better? Because that's what Mark and Ziggy Wilf have done with the Vikings since they've been owners. They have made the Vikings work environment better, and they didn't need team report cards coming out to do that. They've been doing this for years. Didn't just start 2 or 3 years ago. They've been building the Vikings, training facilities and the work environment. They've been building it to be world class over a number of years. And again, they didn't need a report card to do that. They've just been doing it. And NFL owners who are getting sucky sucky grades on these report cards, they should be taking a lesson from that and just sucking it up and making a better work environment. And some teams have done that. Atlanta, Miami has done it. And don't complain about it. Do better.
Mm-hmm. No. And T-Bass thinks it's all about the money. I disagree. Now, money does come in consideration when a player is looking at a place to play. They might like a no tax state,
yes,
stuff like that. But they still, when you play in the NFL, you're going to get an accountant because you're paying taxes in half dozen places.
Mm-hmm.
And overseas too, if you're going overseas. But if everything's equal, you're going to want to go to the place that sounds like it's a cool place to work versus, hey, I'm going to go over to this dump underneath a bridge. And it's not willing to, spend money on me, give me extra benefits with free food and whatever.
Yeah.
It does make a difference.
If it didn't, I don't think that very few free agents would come to Minnesota. I think you wouldn't get Will Fries coming here, or Ryan Kelly. And again, like if let's just say the Vikings and the Bengals are duking it out in free agency for a player. Both teams are offering similar dollar value in to that player. Are you going to go to Minnesota where the reputation is that they, your family's taken care of, you're taken care of, you don't pay for food at the cafeteria, the training facilities are world class, or are you going to go to the Bengals who have a reputation for being cheapo? I think it makes a difference.
Yep. And it also works the opposite way. We have Danny Dimes. Vikings offered him more money, but he went with the less offer because he wanted to start, and he thought he had a better chance of doing that in Indianapolis, and obviously that's paid off for him.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
People will have different reasons for going where they are, but just the whole report card deal helps sway those reasons. And it's a good thing. And I think, now people like Woody Johnson complained that, it's just people who have grievances or a bad employee that we got rid of is going to rate us low, or a bad player is going to rate us low. Well, don't suck. Don't be a cheap ass. Try to take care of your people.
Mm-hmm.
That's real simple. And
T-Bass is saying that the work environment is putting lipstick on a pig. Is he saying that the Vikings organization is pigly? I know with the Vikings aren't having a good year this year, and they haven't even been to a Super Bowl in a long time. But I'm not sure what he like. So does T-Bass consider the Vikings to be like a piss poor franchise for a long stretch of time? I don't think that's true. Actually, I know that's not true. The teams like the Patriots and the Chiefs who are riding, and Philly who are riding high right now, they'll be riding low, in a certain amount of time. The NFL is so cyclical that way. Very few franchises are outstanding on the field for 30, 40 years straight. I don't know. I did. As an owner, you got to be looking for competitive advantages any way you can, and I think work environment is one of those things.
One of those advantages. Yep.
The players are saying so that are signing here.
Mm-hmm. So, I think it's a good thing. I'm not worried about it. And like you said, even if they don't officially publish them, some insider's going to get their grades, guaranteed. They'll be fat. If the Vikings rank 1 or 2, somebody in the Vikings staff will feed it.
Mm-hmm.
Minimum. All right. Now on to the theme of all themes. What is it?
Inside the numbers. Got the music going that time.
That worked that time. This is self-sometimes. And then we have the Drewster. How you doing, Drew? And you're on mute. That's a fine.
That is a terrible way to start the show, isn't it? I had my helmets up there. I had this big intro and get rid of the Packer one. Go with the Vikings this week. How's everybody doing out there? Please like and subscribe. Since they didn't say it, I'm going to say it because it's a known and well-documented fact that I learned from my friend Cliff Clavin that the more likes and subscribes you get, the more chances the Vikings will win. So do you want the team to win or don't you? It's up to you. Early comments from the first two themes. The only pie is pecan pie. Everything else sucks. Pumpkin pie is horrible. Pumpkin pie at Thanksgiving is like candy corn at Halloween. They're the same draft class. They're both 7th-round picks. They're terrible. You don't eat pumpkin pie unless you have 9 pounds of whipped cream, Cool Whip. You have to stack the Cool Whip on the pumpkin pie to eat it. Secondly, you talk about Ryan Kelly with his helmet. It's going to help him this week. You know what else is going to help him? The fact that he doesn't have to block Kenny Clark. That's going to help him more than the helmet.
Yes.
No more Kenny Clark. He's gone. They got other things to worry about, but those are my 2 comments to open up the show here for that I listened to you guys. Great themes. You guys covered a lot of great topics. You guys have a lot of information to digest. If you had a test, I would fail it because there's too much for me to absorb. Great job. Best comment I saw today so far was T-Bass talking about the GM and the free agency. It's like bad gambling. It's like splitting kings. That is so freaking accurate. You can't have it more accurate than that. So well done on that comment because you never split kings. And if you want to get into my brain, you talk Vegas, you bring that comparison. I know what you're talking about because I grew up there. Okay, here we go. Horrible, horrible team. I don't like to say their names, so I may refer to them as TTFW during this segment. And what that means,
from
Darren,
Wisconsin.
Yeah, well, that's right what it means, Dave. That's exactly what it means. Because early on in the 1970s, my Uncle Paulie said, I will not hear that team name in this house ever again. And we've all stuck to it. I was 9 years old and I was frightened. So I've called them Team from Wisconsin ever since. TTFW. Hate week is exactly right. I hate them. I can't stand them. I hate the stadium. I hate the fans. I hate everything about them. I hate their stinky-ass stadium, and I hate everything about them. Going all the way back to Hornig and all of it. Can't think of any names. David Whitehurst, all those guys. We don't like any of them.
Star.
They're terrible. I can't stand them, and their colors are stupid. They are. Vikings are the color of royalty. Purple and gold. That's royalty. Royalty uses purple and gold. What is green and yellow?
Bananas and
That's the color of my. That's the color of my dumps when I eat bad licorice. That's what that is. Okay. What?
We're learning a lot here.
It is. 130th meeting between these great NFC Norris rival division teams. 130th meeting. Cheeseheads have a slight lead at 66-60 with 3 ties. Pretty close after 60 years of football to be 66-60. Vikings are on the road this week. Yes, because it seems to be where they get most of their wins. Yes. As a head coach, Kevin O'Connell is 2-2 there, including 1 playoff loss in 2023. 2023, he's 2-2 there. The playoff loss in that season, which is ironically enough the same year that restrooms were put in at Lambeau, was 2023. Up to 2023, you either had a bucket, a 5-gallon bucket, or you found a corner, or you did something. They didn't have any restrooms there. Now they do. They're moving up in the Cheese Sticks favored by 6.5. Over under is 41.5. Officiating crew. What do we got for him? Some guy named Jeffers.
Carl Jeffers.
He 7-2 with home teams this year and calls most of the flags on the visitor. So get ready, folks. Get ready for the thing tomorrow. That's what Jeffers does. The officiating crew does matter. I mean, when you go week to week and look at him. He calls 16.5 flags a week. So expects the Vikings penalties to go up a little this week because Carl Jeffers is a commie. Okay. I don't know you, Carl, but I'm just going off what I've been told. Okay, points
Very
scored.
well
Look at
could
the
be.
Vikings are in the 20s, all the way down the board from points scored, offensive overall, rushing, Minnesota passing. And if you look at the contrast, TTFW, they are pretty high on all the rankings in defense. They are like the Vikings overall offense is 27th, and they're 6th overall. It's a big difference there, Darren. The Vikings are 25th, bottom third of the league in running the football. That team from Wisconsin is 7th in the league at stopping it. And they are a high-pressure defensive team. We don't want to talk about the turnovers. The Vikings are a miserable -9. -9 in turnovers. The Vikings are second to last in creating turnovers. I don't know if anybody knew that. Only the Jets are worse than the Vikings at creating turnovers. One other team. And you mentioned Woody Johnson earlier. That guy's a dope. Look at his name, Woody Johnson. He's named after 2 peckers. How are you going to trust that guy? Entirety of the season. Here we go. Vikings. Both offenses, after my research, both offenses look to be struggling in this game, which is fine because if it's a defensive game, that means we're going to be alive in the fourth quarter. Because I think the Vikings defense is going to give.
They're getting healthy.
Yes, and they're going to give that team from Wisconsin all the trouble that they can possibly give them. Because I'll go into the offensive line in a little while here about how they are struggling up front. The team from Wisconsin. So the Vikings might be able to make a little hay there with their healthy front seven. Let's look at the ITN just in the last few games because I think it matters. You can look at season numbers, Darren, and look at averages and everything. Like we just had these numbers up right here. That's a really busy graphic right there.
It goes towards things like this. But anyways, go ahead.
That team from Wisconsin's offense enters this game averaging just 15 points and 308 total yards over the last 3 weeks. Last 3 weeks is what you look at. That's what football's about. It's a week-to-week game. So we're trying to look at the last 3 weeks. Meanwhile, the Vikings offense is averaging 18.3 points a game and 263 total yards. Not a lot of yards, but they have to find a way to improve that this week. Let's get to key one, David. I don't have any music, so I'll do my own. Can McCarthy get better? You guys talked a lot about McCarthy and what I think it was theme 2. Can he get better? This is my number one key because, quite frankly, guys, if McCarthy doesn't play better, they're not going to win this game. None of the other keys matter. This number one key is what matters the most. And we can, you can break down all the numbers and we can look at all the keys we want. But if he doesn't play better, they're not going to win the game. They really don't have a shot at it. The team from Wisconsin, 6th among the leaders in hurries, quarterback hits, and sacks. They rank number 5 in pass rush in the PFF, which I'm not a big PFF guy, but I wrote that in there because it makes it sound cool if you say PFF. And we just looked at the defensive rankings. 7th, 5th. They're in the top 10 of all defensive rankings, that team from Wisconsin. They have Rashawn Gary and Micah Parsons. You can say what you want about the rest of the defense. Those 2 guys alone are game changers. Although I don't know about Rashawn Gary. $24 million a year, and you're playing him 39 snaps, Darren? $24 million, 39 snaps. If we're $24 million, shouldn't he be playing all the defensive snaps?
You would think so.
Yeah.
Tell you.
Maybe he's doing a reverse Dallas Turner thing.
They're the color of licorice or the color of royalty. I'll stick with that. So I don't know what they got going with Gary, but he's a great, great player because he went to a great, great school. Speaking of which, tell Chris Carter to shut the hell up. You know why Chris Carter doesn't like McCarthy, Darren? I'll give you one guess.
Well, because McCarthy beat Ohio State.
McCarthy's Michigan. He's Ohio State. My Michigan is shut Chris Carter up again next Saturday when they put the hammer down and win their 5th straight. Shut up, Carter. Stick to what you know, which isn't apparently quarterbacking. Don't hate on JJ because he's a Wolverine. He beat your ass.
I was going to ask you, when was that game? Is that your game?
What?
I was going to ask, when is your game? I see you
next Saturday. So we can't be running We can't be running this segment all the way till 10 after 11 next week. You guys got to come up with some different scheduling for me. We're going to do a little quicker, a little earlier, whatever. JJ, if they're a high-pressure defense, that's what they're going to try to do. They take JJ away, they're going to win the game. All the other stuff is peripheral. They know that. Vikings better have a plan, but you got to block Micah Parsons. You got to know going into this thing. KOC has to know he has to be accounted for the whole entire game, not just a few series. McCarthy is constantly missing open receivers. His completion rate falls off a cliff when he's under pressure, and this is a high-pressure defense. 48.9%, Darren, when under pressure. Got to be better than that. Catchable ball rate, as Mr. Alec Lewis told me this week. Catchable ball rate, 38.7%. He's still trying to push the ball past the sticks without, he has the highest intended air yards. I don't know really what that means, but Alec Lewis follows it a lot closer than I do.
Of the receiver he's throwing to.
He's still airing it out. But he's facing a team. I don't know if you guys knew this. That team for Wisconsin's secondary allows the fewest big plays in football. 21 completions over 20 yards. That's not a lot. That's second.
There are two corners being hurt for a good chunk.
Right. And that's a big asterisk on top of it. They still have only given up 21 completions or 20 yards or more with a banged up secondary. And the only team that registers higher than that is Denver. Denver has given up less, but they're right there. They're number 2. Ground game, huge this week. Going to need 150. Let JJ extend some drives with his feet. When you let McCarthy run a little bit, that comforts him. It calms him down. The problem J.J. McCarthy's had up until now is he gets too full tilt boogie, Darren. He gets too wound up in his own head. He starts throwing high passes, bad footwork. You got to let that guy run 10 or 12 yards and get hit, and then let him go out about whatever. I'm telling you, you watch McCarthy in that Sugar Bowl, his whole game changes when he gets hit. He gets angry, which calms him down, believe it or not. You need him with a calm head on his shoulders. Let him run. Let him extend plays. I'm not sure what's been happening with Kevin O'Connell because he didn't run last week at all, I don't think. McCarthy, he's an improv guy. Get him outside. Let him run, take off, pick up a couple first down. It gets his mind into the game more. Don't just have him be a pocket quarterback. That's not who he is. So hopefully they're going to need to extend some possessions because they are not doing well holding that ball. Last week they had 49 plays against the Bears, held the ball for 23 minutes. 49 offensive plays in 23 minutes. You're not going to beat that team from Wisconsin in Lambeau tomorrow. You need to extend some drives. And like we've talked about, Darren, sometimes when you get it to the 20, you have 2 or 3 first downs and you get it out, midfield, and then your drive stalls. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Because you're helping your defense. You're not having your defense get so gassed by the fourth quarter because, you get a couple first downs, you have to punt, you don't score, whatever. But what you're doing is you're saving the defense a little bit rather than putting their ass on the line. Only possessing the ball 23 minutes isn't enough. The Vikings defense every game is gassed out of their ass by the fourth quarter. That is on Kevin O'Connell to extend first downs, extend the change. You don't have to score every drive. It would be nice. But you can help your defense out with these hideous 3-and-outs. Why? I counted another 5 last week. Come on. They don't give up a lot of big plays. I think the Vikings are still going to throw it deep because KOC is addicted to having that go route. He wants that 9 route, Darren. He wants it, David. Mm-hmm. Let's jump into key 2 since my time is whittling down. Key 2, stop busting your own balls. I had no other way to write it. No other heading. Stop killing your own momentum. Vikings have been suffering from this all season. You get 4 or 5 good plays like we talked about today, Darren, when we were talking pre-show. They get about 4 or 5 good plays, and then boom, disaster strikes. And I don't know what it is. You have to focus on each play.
Or you get 30-28 and give up the first down.
Exactly. It seems like they get 4 or 5 good plays, and then there's a false start or a missed block or a dropped pass or a missed tackle. There's always something that happens right around the 6 play mark. And my wife said it best when we were watching the game. She says the Vikings make so many mistakes, they don't allow you to be happy during the 4 or 5 plays. because you know it's coming around the corner. There's stuff they can't string together. Good play. They can't.
Ruby's right. Toots is correct as usual.
She is right. You got to calm down and play it one play at a time. And then, all right, this play to this play to this play, and then string them together. You can't just completely fall apart every drive. And like I said, wearing down your defense is bad. They got to put some drives together and keep the defense fresh. You got to – Justin Jefferson, post-game, locker room against the Bears. I got it written down here, quoted, and I checked it twice to make sure I'm accurate because, you know me, I always like to be accurate. We as an offensive team have to start helping the defense. That's Justin Jefferson. He said that. So he knows that the grumbling going on with that defense. Why can't you son of a bitches hold the ball more and keep us off the field? That's about what that says. So JJ knows, and I hope they can put some drives together to try to help their defense. And if they score on them, that's fine. The Vikings have been scoring. The Vikings you get about 10, 12 drives a game, right, guys? You can't be good on two of them. And that's what they do.
On the high side, you get 10.
Okay, so you got 10
like
drives.
7.
You got 10 drives. Well, it used to be 12. I'm old school.
Well, we used to run the ball more.
Correct. But you can't, my point being, you can't have 10 drives and 2 of them are good. You have 1 in the first quarter,
right?
And then you have 1 at the end of the game. That's what the Vikings trap they fall into. You notice that?
Mm-hmm.
When you end a Viking game, no matter who you're watching with, you can look at your friend or your buddy or your wife and you say, how many good drives do we have? 1 or 2. You can't have 1 or 2. You need about 5 or 6. You can't have 1 or 2.
Beginning, the middle, which bracket before the end of the first half, right after the second half starts, and then at the end, and you'll win.
If you have a series that runs off 6 or 7 minutes, you don't get a field goal or a touchdown, whatever. You're helping your defense, and you're probably winning the field position. So it's not necessarily a bad thing if having to punt, but it is if you're only doing 3 and outs. 3 and outs kill your team on so many levels. Key 3, injury report. This is important. 19 guys on the stinky Cheese Dicks injury report. 1/3 of their roster. 19 guys, Darren. 2 are out, Reed and Hobbs. You correct me if I'm wrong. 1 is doubtful, Quay Walker, which is huge because he has 84 tackles. The leading tackler for that team from Wisconsin is he's not going to play. He's doubtful. He hasn't practiced all week. Quay Walker isn't playing, which may not be a big revelation where people go, oh, wow, an eye-opening thing like a quarterback not playing. That's going to be huge. With Rashawn Gary and Micah Parsons, you get Quay Walker in there and they all get rolling. He shuts defenses down. He's not playing tomorrow. I would be shocked if I seen him out there with his injury. Like I said, 84 tackles. He's their leading guy. That would be big for the Vikings run game and big for JJ and especially big for O'Connell, diagnosing and getting the offense running a little bit. They got 6 people that are questionable, including Josh Jacobs. They back up Emmanuel Wilson or Emmanuel Lewis. Wasn't that Webster?
It's Wilson.
Emmanuel Wilson is not Josh Jacobs. I actually did a draft write-up on Emmanuel Wilson. Good, really good running back. Does a lot of different things really well, but there's Josh Jacobs is Josh Jacobs. He doesn't do the things Josh Jacobs does. So there will be a drop-off if they have to use Wilson. Of course, I thought that with Kenneth Gainwell, too.
It's true.
Norsefius, you got ahead of me.
Norsefius, what up, dog? Josh Jacobs, Lucas Van Ness, Darren, he's banged up. I see a lot of question marks on there, David. I see a lot of question marks.
I think Jacobs is LaFleur said Jacobs is like a game time decision, I believe.
I don't think Carl Brooks is going to play.
I expect him to play. Brooks didn't practice all week, so unlikely to play. Savion Williams didn't practice all week. He's not really a big part of their offense, but he returns all kicks and punts, I think, for them. So he may not play. But I kind of expect that Jacobs will be in there and he'll give it a go. But he's got a knee. He's got a knee injury. I don't know if he gives it a go how long he lasts.
He's got to
True.
play in 4 days. It'd be stupid to play him. So I expect LaFleur to do it since cram-hole, LaFleur's an idiot. The biggest loss for them, in my eyes, is that Tucker Kraft guy out for the season. That's their biggest. They're banged up on both sides of the ball, but Kraft was, besides Trey McBride on the Cardinals and then Bowers on the Raiders, those are the two teams that run their offense through their tight end. I think you wouldn't say that necessarily 100% about that team from Wisconsin, but he is their passing game. He was their passing game. That guy was, talk about yards after catch. He was having a fantastic year. That's the biggest loss on their whole team, if you ask me, is Tucker Kraft.
He was basically their number one wide receiver.
Right. And, because if Jacobs
receivers, all they ever number twos.
Yeah, every game I watched him play, he was shredding down the field on people. They were going to him like majority of the time. So he's out for the season. That'll be a big drop off. I don't know, his backup's Musgrave or somebody. He's not. And
the Vikings have had a hard time with good wide tight ends this year.
I want Jacobs to sit because that team from Wisconsin has 12 rushing touchdowns this season, and Jacobs has 11.
Mm-hmm.
Hobbs is out. Who's else? Reed. I don't know about Big Reed, that helmet he wears. The kicker, McAnus, he's banged up, but he's going to play. Let's get to key 4. This week I got 4 keys. I will not have 4 next week because Michigan Ohio State starts at 11. This is even an extra huge week in this matchup because a field goal could be the difference. A field goal could be the difference. Darren Campbell, Cheesehead. This is interesting inside the numbers that I found you guys are going to enjoy. The Cheeseheads are number 4 in red zone offense. Get this. 40 trips to the red zone. They have 27 red zone touchdowns. 68%. That is crazy. That's a crazy high number. But on the other side of the ball, okay, they're 4th. The Vikings are 4th in red zone defense. So it's 4 against 4 in the rating. The Vikings have only allowed 15 touchdowns in 31 chances. So we got the 4th best offensive red zone and the 4th best defensive red zone. That's going to be a hell of a battle down there. So when the team from Wisconsin's in the red zone, we're going to see whoever wins the red zone battle. If you hold them to field goals, the Vikings win the game. But if they're putting it in the end zone 68% of the time, that's going to be tough. That's something I noticed for my inside the number segment. What else we got on here? We got a couple more things. We got the offensive line. I mentioned it earlier. They got Walker, left tackle. They still don't know what they're going to get from him. He's kind of questionable. They got Banks at left guard, $77 million for 4 years, and he can't pass protect. Why you would make a deal like that, I have no idea. That guy, I could block better in the run game than that guy. Put Dave Stefano in there. Dave, what did you play, tight end or?
High school was tight end and defensive end, but I played all the positions on the line from center to tackle.
That is fantastic, dude. Dude. That is great. That's great to hear. Well, Banks is overpaid.
Swiss Army knife.
Mm-hmm.
Look at Darren's pictures getting blurry, but
his internet's probably going out again.
Sean Ryan, the center. He was the Pro Bowl guard at left guard. Moved him to center because they didn't have a center when Jenkins went out, who was a very good center. Jenkins is gone for the season. So Ryan's playing out of position, but he's doing about a 50%, maybe a C grade job over there. Morgan, the right guard, they're still waiting for him to come around, hopefully to develop. He's like an Ingram, hopefully develop into a better player. I have nothing bad to say about their right tackle, Zach Tom. I think Zach Tom's the best player on their offensive line, and I think he's one of the best right tackles in the league. But their offensive line is questionable. They're jockeying guys around. The Vikings can destroy them tomorrow. And with no Jacobs, they're going to you take the running game away. That leaves it up to Love. Vikings got a real shot at winning this game.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've got Brooks up there. Jacobs, but running back too. And he's not too bad.
I don't have him in my notes. But again, he probably eats licorice, so we're not going to count him.
I'm sure he does.
Stop busting their balls. We got that covered. Let's get to the summary. My final thoughts on it. Vikings on the road. That's right where we want them. That's right where the fan base wants them because that's where we win. They had lost 2 straight before last week, the team from Wisconsin. Get this. They had lost 2 straight before barely beating last week. Let's face it, barely beating a horrible Giants team 27-20. Matter of fact, that game was 20-19, Darren, going into the fourth quarter, New York. Okay? Everybody needs to hear that out there. The Giants were winning going into the fourth quarter against that team from Wisconsin. So they were alive with their third string quarterback. They were taking the lead into the fourth quarter. It's right there for the picking. The Vikings could win this game. But we must find a way to generate some turnovers. They have to keep the possessions alive. They have to steal some turnovers, which gets to my tasty tidbit and my spicy hot take. The Vikings have 5 games this season where they haven't taken the ball away. Half of them. That's crazy. Half the games they played, they haven't got a turnover. Add that in to every other thing that's happened this year to make us 4-6. Turnovers make a difference in a football game, and they have gotten 0 in 5 different games. They have to get some turnovers because it'll steal some possessions. They were there last week. They just got bad bounces. They had that one went behind the line that the Bears fumbled. Just the guy kicked it. We didn't get the ball. Then there was one where the receiver dropped it, but they ruled it incomplete. That was another turnover. Then Caleb Williams fumbled later, and it popped back into his hand. So that I called for 3 turnovers last week. They were there. I'm gonna claim that in court. I called it right. They just didn't come through. They must win it's that simple. My spicy hot take is fake punt. The Vikings will have a fake punt, and it will be successful tomorrow. It's a perfect time to use it. They haven't used anything like that all year. They have to steal some possessions to win this game. Why not steal a possession with a fake punt? When you get it out to midfield, 45, 50-yard line, pull the trigger. You can do it. You can get it done. Ryan Wright can get it done. Steal a possession. And I think tomorrow would be a great time for a fake punt. Do it. Do it, KOC. Grow a pair. Do it.
You're asking an awful lot.
We can't have JJ McThree and out. We covered that. Combined with the team from Wisconsin's defensive rankings, we can't get into a 3-and-out game, Darren, where we're having the graphic come on the screen after the commercial. Vikings first 3 drives, 3 plays -7, 3 plays 2, 3 plays 4. You can't start doing that or the game's over. You have to punch them in the face from the get-go. In the last 3 team from Wisconsin games, they have turned it over 4 times in 3 games. Let's hope that continues because they're getting a little not sure-handed with the ball. How do the Vikings win? Establish the run. Force Green Bay to pass the ball. Kill their run game. Force it into Love's hands. Move him up. Center pressure like they did with Goff. Remember the center pressure?
Mm-hmm.
And if he escapes, do what they did against Lamar Jackson. Overload one side, scout him out to the other side, and have Metellus there. Or Pace or somebody. But that center pressure is how you beat any quarterback. Tom Brady, I don't care. Peyton Manning, they don't like center pressure. It forces them to move and look and get off their footsteps and move and lateral, all that stuff. All that quarterback junk that Tyler talks about. Put them in predictable passing situations. They'll tilt the game in their strength. They will tilt the game in their strength. Put Love on his ass. And what do we have with the asterisks here? Minnesota's got to figure out a way to move the football. We talked about that. They need 150 on the ground. Here's the numbers you guys got to keep in mind. Write this down, people. 150 in rushing yards, and they need 30 minutes of time of possession to help their defense. 150 and 30. You can get it done. You can get it done. Once more, you got to get it done. Let J.J. McCarthy run for a first down. For Christ's sakes, KOC, that's his comfort zone. Let him run a little bit with the ball. Let him get out of the pocket, please. When he runs for first downs, he gets – J.J. McCarthy is a confidence quarterback. He's about confidence, and he's about team first and, slapping your guys on the head and saying, it's a great job. But when he starts getting all janky in the head, it doesn't go well. So let them have confidence. Let them run for a first down and show the first down signal and say, screw you, licorice asses. We're going to beat you today. Stay ahead of the down and distance. That's critical. Convert on the money down. We talked about that earlier, keeping the drives alive. The money down is third down and fourth down. Convert. You have to convert. Make them one-dimensional. They have a banged-up running game. That should come into handy for Brian Flores. I think if Jacobs doesn't play, it's Jacobs and Kraft right there. Look at those two guys. That means a lot to LaFleur. Don't chase the score. We ever had one of these previews? We're not talking about don't get down 14-3 or whatever. Come on, can you start a game? Get up on them, which is what the Vikings have been doing in Lambeau, it seems like. You got my spicy hot take? My tasty tidbit. My player of the game, Jordy Addison. 2 games at Lambeau Field, 2023. 7 catches, 82 yards, and a touchdown. 2024, 3 catches, 72 yards, and a touchdown. That's 10 catches, 154 yards, and 2 touchdowns at Lambeau. He is the man at Lambeau. Tomorrow he's going 6 for 90 and a touchdown. He will keep the streak alive. He's my player of the game. He loves playing there, and he loves to piss off the crowd. That's my tasty tidbit for the week. Do you guys want to have your 5 over-unders or whatever? Is there time for that or not?
Sure. There's nothing telling us to stop.
Darren tied it up last week. It's now 5-5 after 2 weeks. This has turned into a real.
Back in the running.
You are back in the running. It's 5-5. Here we go this week. JJ. We always start with JJ because that's the important part of the game. Touchdown passes over under 1.5.
Over.
Under.
Over. Under. This is a two-parter. Two-part question. Team rushing yards. Give me a number. You know what I think they need to do. Give me a rushing number. For
105.
105.
I'll go like 135.
135. Now, the other part of the question is, who will be the highest gained rusher, Mason, Jones, or McCarthy?
Jones.
I agree, Jones.
Okay, Jones.
Jones desperately wants to do a Lambeau leap.
And he will. He will.
Justin
Jefferson and Addison, combined receiving yards, 135, over or under?
Jefferson, Addison, and who?
Just Jefferson and Addison, 135.
I'm going to go over on this one.
Okay.
I will too.
Okay. Let's go defense. We never do defense when we do these number things. Cashman, tackles in a game. How many will he have tomorrow? And I'll give you a little help on this one. He's played 6 games. He has 58 tackles, just under 10 a game. That's what he averages. So you guys shoot me a number, and we'll see who's closer.
8.
I'll say 10. So the number will be 9, and we split it.
That's probably what it's going to be. And last but not least, the great Will the Thrill, the greatest kicker in the history of the NFL. Made field goals, over under 2.5. Made field, not attempted, made.
Oh, hey.
I'm going under.
Now watch us. Darren's taking the optimistic route that we score touchdowns every time and he doesn't have to kick field goals. If you go to pessimistic route.
Well, that might be the pessimistic route too. He might be thinking we don't even get.
Is that we have 6 drives where we win with 6 field goals. I'll go over.
Okay, I will keep track. Like I said, you guys are going into the week 5-5. We got a big prize at the end of the season for whoever wins.
And the weather should be good tomorrow. As I popped up the weather screen briefly, the winds are under 10 miles an hour.
It's like the best football weather in November that team from Wisconsin has had in a while in their stinky stadium. No flags tomorrow. Let's put that out there. We don't want any of these.
Wear the right cleats.
We don't want challenges either. That's all I got for today, guys. This is the helmets, but no one wants to see this helmet. We just want to see this helmet.
Yes.
They got to have this game. They got to have this game, man. Well, they have to have it.
Wearing white on white tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
For those that don't know. Green Bay will be normal. They're green and yellow.
They got it, Darren. That money down. It's all about that money down. If they start going 3 and out, I don't think they have much of a shot. But the fact that they're banged up, that team from Wisconsin's really banged up, missing key guys. Vikings got to take advantage of it. And let me leave it with this with the people out there in the crowd. If you can go to Detroit and beat the Lions with J.J. McCarthy, you could certainly go to Wisconsin and beat those guys. Can't you?
Yes.
Are they better than the Lions? Are they better than the Lions?
They aren't. It's just what J.J. McCarthy are you getting? Old Viking said that he doesn't have any confidence in McCarthy or the Vikings offense, and that's why he can't really pick them winning. And I agree with him on that. What have we seen from McCarthy in 5 games that would give you the optimism that he's going to play at even a game manager level to give the Vikings the best chance to win? That's the question.
I had this perfect positive way to end the show, and Darren just pumpkin pied all over it. That's what he just did. Again, if we go to Detroit, we beat them in Detroit, we can certainly go here and win. Darren, don't say anything. That's my high note to end it right there.
Well, I got some trivia real quick. Last time, we're coming up on 3 wins in a row if we win.
Oh,
over
3
the Packers.
wins? I'm surprised we even have a website, the Vikings, because it takes 3 W's to string them together to have the website.
But the last time they beat Green Bay 3 consecutive games
50 years ago.
Huh?
50 years ago.
No.
Oh.
Actually, it was 98, 99.
Oh.
3 games in a row. Now, 3 games in a row at Lambeau. Nixon was president.
So it was 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's some good trivia right there. Make it 3 in a row tomorrow.
Yes, 3 in a row, both wins and wins at Lambeau. God, that'd be great.
Nixon was not a crook either. I want to get that out there. Let's air that real quick.
With that, gentlemen, what do we say?
Go Vikings beat TTFW.
SKOL Vikings beat TTFW badly. We need it. We need the win. We need to get to 5 and 6 so I can brag about it.
It's always fuck the Packers. SKOL Vikings.
Like, subscribe, and ring the bell, and rate us on your favorite podcast aggregator. Darren and Dave, thank you for watching this episode of Two Old Bloggers. We look forward to seeing you on every show on the new Vikings First and SKOL. You can find our podcasts as part of the Fans First Sports Network. Sports takes for the fan, from the fan. SKOL, everybody!